The Chargers suffered their first loss in week 4 against the New York Giants. So let's break down that game, what my takeaways were, why the defeat happened, and what they need to improve on in week 5. Let's get into it. Well, apparently the Giants got it better than us this week because they beat the Chargers in a 3-point loss, I guess you can call it, for the Chargers, victory for the Giants. 18-21, 21-18, however you want to dial it out. So yeah, it was a rough game. And I'll be honest, it took me a while to break this game down because I didn't want to admit to myself that it was a trap game. I didn't want to put it out in the atmosphere. I didn't want to put it on Twitter. I didn't want to put it in the video because I really, deep down in my gut, had a bad feeling, and I felt like this was a trap game. The team was winless. They were changing quarterbacks, going on the road, early game. A lot of the things that smelled like trap game, it felt like it was a trap game to me, but I didn't want to say it and thinking that if I didn't say it, it wouldn't happen. But ultimately, that's what it was. It was a trap game. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And this is the epitome and the definition of a trap game, and that's what happened. And it's the Chargers fell for the trap. I mean, you just got to be honest about it. That's what happened. Again, can't cry with spilled milk, but it was a lot of negativity in this game that the Chargers doled out for themselves, I guess you can say. They definitely shot themselves in the foot over and over again. You would think they wouldn't have any foot left at this point. I mean, just from the penalties to the O-line play. I mean, just the defense, and putting themselves in certain positions that would allow for them to be scored upon in certain conversations. I'm not gonna probably the defense too bad. They played pretty well, but I think that there were definitely some things that need to be cleaned up, and I will discuss that, later on. But yeah, this game was definitely a rough watch, for us fans. And again, brought us back down to earth. We all had a lot of hope that we could, ultimately be 4-0 going into the Commanders game, which we felt like was going to be a tough one. We didn't know what the status of Jaden Daniels was at the time, but we felt good about going into that particular matchup, coming back home with 4-0, and it didn't happen. Now 3-1, losing to the previously winless Giants. It's a rough watch, but if you've been a Chargers fan this long, that's when you get to that high plateau, you feel like things are going good. That's when they bring you back down to reality, right? And that's what happened. Losing to the Giants, which you had no business doing, but you got to learn from it, and it's better to take a loss now than take a loss in the playoffs. So I'm gonna use that silver lining as a building block to talk about this matchup, right? So, like I said, I felt like it was a bit of a trap game, but it's one of those things where you gotta take the negativity from it, build on it, and jump back and bounce back in a big way. So, I definitely feel like they fell for the trap, but we'll discuss exactly what happened in its entirety. So, starting over with the game itself, this is my weekend review, the week 4 matchup against the Giants. We'll start with the logistics and the box score and things of that nature. We'll get into that. First and foremost, again, the score was 21-18. I will get it right. I kept disrespecting the Giants by not giving them their score first, but 21-18, the Chargers ultimately didn't lead it at all in this game at any point. Got down big early. I think they were down at one point before the touchdown before the half. I believe they were down 13-3 and then pulled it within 3 at the half by scoring a late touchdown to Quentin Johnston. But again, never led. They gave up a touchdown in the third quarter. They were leading again, to a pretty large margin, and then they Chargers brought it back within 3, but never got over that hump, right? So that was the box score. Not a whole lot to talk about in that space, but that's where it landed. Getting to the team stats, it's a lot of glaring issues here. I'm gonna start at the bottom and work my way up. The time of possession. I always scream time of possession being a problem. If you're on the right side of that, and the Giants dominated time of possession at 35 minutes to 24. That's I guess 11-minute, almost an 11-minute differentiation. It's almost a full quarter's worth of football that they held the ball longer than the Chargers did. That's a problem. 2 turnovers to none. 2 untimely interceptions. We'll talk about that and how they happened and how they're just unfortunate, but it did happen. And at both times they put the Giants in scoring range, and they got 11 points off turnovers. That was a difference in the game. You take away that, the Chargers win going away. Even not playing to the caliber they've been playing the first 3 weeks. You take 11 points away from this Giants team, they win the game they win the game 17-9. 17-9. So again, that you take those away, that's the difference in the game. Again, red zone attempts, the Giants had 2, Chargers only had 1. Rushing attempts, they ran the ball 42 times to the Chargers 13. That's completely lopsided, completely backwards. You would think the Chargers would have ran the ball 42 times and them ran the ball 13, but that's what happened. Again, passing attempts, Jackson Dart didn't throw the ball a whole lot. I think he had 20 attempts out of the 21. The Chargers and Justin Herbert had 41 attempts, 4.3 yards a pass, 3.3 for them. Again, 2 passes intercepted. Yards per play, Chargers had 6. The Giants only had 3. So, total drives, both had 11. Total yards, the Chargers had 338 yards and only 17 points. The Giants had like 1250. So that tells you right there, especially with 69 plays to 56, they ran more plays, but they didn't run a lot of plays, to the point where they got a lot of yards. They only had 250 yards in totality, but they ran more plays. They held the ball longer. They kept Justin Herbert on the sideline. So that was a thing. Third down was a problem. 4 of 12 for the Chargers. No fourth down conversion. 7 of 15 for the Giants. Pretty good percentage. A little bit. I think it was a little bit below 500, but they did better than the Chargers did. First downs. I want to say the totality had 20 versus 17. So yeah. Again, the Chargers did well. Well, I'm not gonna say they did well. They did better than the Giants did offensively. Just the 2 turnovers, and those 11 points that came off it, a touchdown and the field goal. That was the difference in the game right there. So, with that being said, if those things go away, you still play an ugly game, but still win. And on top of that, I didn't discuss this. Most glaring one is penalties. The Chargers had 14 penalties for 107 yards. The Giants had 8 for 43. That is a big killer when it comes down to the idea of you winning a ball game. You can't have 107 yards and 14 penalties and expect to win a lot of ball games. You just can't. It's very uncharacteristic for a Jim Harbaugh team as well. They haven't played that bad from a penalty perspective since he's been in charge, I believe. I think this is the worst penalty game that they've had. So again, the penalties, the turnovers, just bad football all around. And that argues, amongst a few Chargers fans, in different circles about the idea that, them going to the East Coast playing the early game might be a problem. It has been a problem in the past. They kind of came up lackluster and lethargic, but Harbaugh, kind of debunked that last year when they played the Panthers. He went over to the East Coast, stayed in Carolina, and for the most part of the weeks, people can get acclimated to the schedule in the East Coast time and things of that nature. And they played well against the Panthers. So he thought that he might be the remedy to that, but clearly not, because it came over to the East Coast this particular week and they laid an egg. So yeah, man, it's rough. It's rough watch. But man, you got to persevere through it. But again, if you wipe away the penalties and or the turnovers, they still win the game. So that's a silver lining in that space. But looking at the game stats in its entirety, I'll just make this large so you can see it. Again, it wasn't again, it is not something that would lend to the idea that they got blown out. Clearly only lost by 3, but the 2 turnovers obviously for Justin Herbert was an issue. 41 pass attempts, 203 yards. Threw the ball 41 times, only got 203 yards is interesting. They only ran the ball 13 times, 12 with Omarion and 1 with Justin. Kind of crazy. Quentin Johnson had a good game again, 8 receptions on 13 targets for 98 yards and a touchdown. Everybody else, it's a little rough. Keenan had 5 catches with 7 targets. Omarion had 5 for 5. His targets. Gaskin had 2 catches on 3 targets. And the lad is the problem here. He had 6 targets. He only had 1 catch. He had 2 ugly drops in this game. Ugly drops. I mean, catches that he normally is good for making. And it was not great. So I think that on top of a lot of things I'm going to underscore it was the big problem why they lost this game. Because again, you look at the Giants side, the Jackson Dart did not play great. I mean, he did enough. With Scatterboo running the ball 25 times for 79 yards. He scrambled 10 times for 54 yards and a touchdown. Devin Singletary 7 for 28. They ran the ball 42 times. Again, that's very Harbaugh-like, not Giant-like, but that's what they did, and they kept them off the field. That's what you do. Jackson Dart 13 to 20, 111 yards on the touchdown. So yeah, I mean, he didn't play great, he didn't play bad, but he did enough for them to win the game, and that's what you expect for his first start. So that's what happened with the game stats. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking that the Chargers more so beat themselves than the Giants beating them in mano a mano. Let me say it that way. So getting into the idea of what really was the issue in my review of the game really quick here. I'm gonna try to get through this in short order. Like I said, it was a trap game. Trap games are typically teams you're supposed to beat. And just some uncharacteristic things happen and you end up losing or in a tight game with this team when you should, blow them out. You are the better team. And that's what ended up happening. They fell for the trap, and that's what definitely led to the idea of them playing, uncharacteristic Harbaugh-esque football, right? So that was part of it. The unknown of Jackson Dart. Russell Wilson started the first 3 games. Looked, outside of that Dallas game, it looked, pretty bad. So they went with Jackson Dart, on kind of a short notice time frame. So you don't have any real live regular season film on Jackson Dart, clearly because he's a rookie. On top of the fact that they found out midweek that he was starting. So you start by prepping for Russell Wilson, and then you turn around and have to prep for Jackson Dart, who you don't know a lot about. So the unknown of him was an issue. His mobility, his ability to extend plays and scramble and do things of that nature that Russell Wilson really wasn't great at, in his time with New York. So that was an unknown. That was a killer. Of course, the loss of Joe Alt was a big one. Him going down, I believe it was the first quarter. Zion Johnson got a rare pancake block, which ended up costing Joe Alt his ankle, in a sense, with a ankle sprain, because the guy fell on Joe Alt's ankle as he was blocking him to the ground. So Zion blocked the guy to the ground. I think it was Brian Burns, and he landed on Joe Alt's ankle, which ended up with a high ankle sprain. He had to come out and get carted off. So he's out for a few weeks. It's looking like. So that was an issue. Protection was bad completely after that. The entire Giants D-line, and if you remember my video when I talked about Rashawn Slater's injury in the preseason, that I underscored who's D-line that we needed to watch out for, and I definitely underscored the Giants first because they have a great interior and edge rushing group. They might have the best in the business right now. I mean, with those 3 edge rushers, Dexter Lawrence in the middle, amongst a few others, that D-line is a problem. It really is a problem. And then having backups with Mekhi Becton being missing, Rashawn Slater not being there at all, Joe Alt going out of the game, it was a mess, and they took advantage of it big time, and they definitely abused our O-line at will. So that was a problem there. I talked about Ladd McConkey a little bit earlier, how uncharacteristically bad he played. I'm very shocked by that. He had really some catchable balls that he could have brought in and extended drives on 2 to 3 separate occasions. He did not bring those passes in. Very uncharacteristic play by him. I mean, he's really short-handed in most cases, so I don't know what was going on there. Tyler Conklin's blunder where he was in the way trying to create some sort of natural pick for Ladd and get him free, and instead of causing the pick, he knocked Ladd down, which Ladd didn't get to his route on time, which caused Justin Herbert to throw an interception, which led to a score. Oh man, it was rough. Again, bad luck turnovers. The first one was Dexter Lawrence batting the ball up in the air, and there were 2 plays in sequence, right? He cleanly beat Jamari Saleh one-on-one to pray before that and flushed Justin Herbert out of the pocket. He had to throw the ball short, which led to the next play where they double-teamed him, and he got his hands up. The ball bopped straight up in the air and fell right back down to him in his hands when he scrambled to the 2-yard line to get them a score. So just bad luck in that space. And again, with Ladd McConkey's falling down because of Tyler Conklin's tripping, which allowed for the second pick to happen, and them getting the scoring range again was another point, which led to the points off turnovers. Points off turnovers was the issue. 11 points off turnovers. If you don't have that, you still win the game despite all the ugliness of this game. And lastly, the uncharacteristic penalties. Having 14 penalties for 107 yards is a recipe for failure. It really is. There's a recipe for failure. And you don't have that, you still may win the game because you don't get those drive-killing penalties and those or extensions of their drives because you get penalties on defense and things of that nature. So getting ugly, there's another one that drove me crazy. Austin Deculus, who came in for Joe Alt, gets a penalty on the special teams extra point, which caused the be reinforced on the kickoff, which drove them back to the 20, which gave the Giants field position, a good field position again. So I think it was towards the end of the half or early part of I think it was the late part of third quarter. But yeah, regardless, you can't have that. And that's another issue within itself, that you basically shooting yourself in the foot and allowing them to gain another ultimate advantage. So there was that, so you take away, even half of these things, they win the game. But those were the recipes of a disaster, quote unquote. They called the Chargers to lose. All right. So, again, this is me reiterating the issue with the interior O-line, or just the O-line in general, especially with the idea of what it's going to look like going forward. This is my slide from when I talked about Rashawn Slater's injury in the preseason. I said there's going to be 10 games that you play good interior D lines, 10 out of the 17. 12 of those games, you're going to have good edge rushers. And you have 5 games where you have a great D line overall. And guess what? Week 4 was the start of it. The Giants' D line in its entirety is great. So you're going to have problems on the edge and interior. So you're going to have to pack your lunch that day because they're going to give you fits. And having backup linemen in that space on top of that made for a recipe for disaster. The Colts are going to be another team, the Steelers, maybe the Cowboys, not sure, with Michael Parsons being gone, because I made that video before Michael Parsons got traded. And then the Texans, it's going to be week 17, is going to be another problem. So those games in its entirety have good D-lines across the board, and they're going to give this O-line fits if they don't fix it and fix it fast. So that's my take on that, but hopefully, the Harbaugh and them can figure some things out. We'll see. Here's the injury report as of, I want to say, Wednesday. Of course, Najee Harris off for the season with his Achilles. Khalil Mack, elbow. He's scheduled from IR to return at some point. I'm not sure when. Joe Alt, ankle out for week 5 for sure. Possible IR. Don't know exactly yet. Hopefully not, but hopefully he can bounce back. But there's rumors that he may or may not go on IR depending on how long he's going to be out. Mekhi Becton in concussion. He's in concussion protocol still, but he did practice on Wednesday on a limited basis with a yellow jersey on. Darius Davis still out with a knee, typo there, knee. He did not practice. And Will Dissly practiced in limited fashion, but he's still dealing with a knee issue as well. So we'll see how things roll with the injury report, but that's what it is for now. So everybody else is pretty much healthy. Keenan Allen, a couple of guys had rest days, but for the most part, everybody else is healthy. But yeah, so before we get out of here, man, I just think that the Chargers have to do something, in regards to them fixing the O-line, and I'm gonna talk about that in my game preview. Check that video out tomorrow. But I think that holistically, man, the O-line is an issue. I think stunning is gonna be a big problem for them going forward. They got to figure that out. But overall, I think it was uncharacteristically bad game for the Chargers. Every NFL team has it. It's not, nobody's immune to it. So, I'm not going to overreact and say that it's going to be a complete disaster going forward. But there is film out there. There is film out there, and there is film to say that the Chargers have issues with the interior O-line, picking up stunts. The guards, especially Jamar Sally on the right side, and Mekhi Becton's not there, has issues blocking one-on-one. He gets blown up by decent DCs on numerous occasions. Austin Deckles has issues with speed rushes. We saw Abdul Carter walk right around him for a sack at the end of the drive late in the game on Sunday. It's just bad omen. It's a bad omen. So I employed them to figure out a combination of O-line men that will work until guys come back, mainly Joe Alt and Mekhi Becton as well. They can help fortify this line and kind of get it back to a decent status. But yeah, that's the most glaring issue. But overall, man, and I'll talk more about the issues with the defense in my preview video. But I mean, it's some things that need to be cleaned up, man. It's some things that need to be cleaned up because I do not like exactly where the Chargers are at this point in time. Going forward, because it's only going to get harder. In my opinion, this is a situation where it's really only going to get tougher for them going forward. And they need to clean up some things. They definitely need to clean up some things. So we'll see how things go down the line. But the Commander's not going to let up either. They're not going to give you any breaks. So we got to be prepared for that. So we'll see how things shake. But But yeah, man, hopefully we get Makai back in the back if nothing else, and we'll see what Joe Alt's injury history is. But again, check out my preview video tomorrow. We get that done, and we'll talk about the Commanders game for Sunday, and we got to get things done, man. But if you're looking for the Electric Shock Podcast, any platform, Electric Shock Pod across all platforms, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel so we can grow this channel up and get to the monetization level. I appreciate everybody's support. It is free. Appreciate that hitting that button. Hit me up on social media if you have any Chargers questions, man. And you got to do one thing and one thing well. You always got to remember to boat up.